And a pleasant good Monday afternoon, everyone, from Pickerington High School Central. Welcome to week 14 of Facebook Live. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Jarrod, Ulrey, and our guest to begin the show. His team is preparing to play Cincinnati Ulrey in a semifinal Friday night over at Pickerington. Jay Sharrett, good to see you, sir. How are you?
Week 4 of the playoffs, that's how I am.
Yeah.
No sleep, teaching, running around all the time, but it's a great feeling, and we did it last year, and we get to practice on Thanksgiving, have a turkey dinner after that. That's an experience that's great for these kids, and I'm glad to be able to do it again.
What is it, 11-2? You guys are right. Overcome some adversity this year. I mean, you know, you're in a very good league. That streak of league titles ended, but you find yourself back in the same place. What's been the key to overcoming a lot of that and the pressure that comes with being a defending state champion so far?
Well, I mean, we play in a tough conference, tough division of the OCC, and you know, we had a couple of those games go down to the wire, could have went either way, and we got edged out there at the end. But some of them were like a perfect storm. Sometimes when stuff lines up against you, you just can't overcome it. Mm-hmm. But what's neat about this team is they didn't pout, they didn't get bitter. Stuck their cleats to the ground, kept practicing harder, and here we are, round 4 in the state semis.
When I was at the Davidson game last week, it seemed like it was probably the best game in the playoffs you played this year. What were some of your takeaways from that game?
Well, I think it's the experience that these guys know what it's like to play this long of a season. This is a long season. This team's been together since June 6th. Some of these guys have been lifting since January, and they know how to pace themselves. And, you know, we had a tough ball game week 1 of the playoffs against Bradley, and one thing I've learned, and these veterans have too, you win them and forget them. You sit there and do, what did we do wrong in the Bradley game? Doesn't matter now. We advanced. Now we put a great game plan together against Northmont, beat a great Northmont team, and turn around and put another one and execute it against Davidson. And like I said, in the state semis, playing Ulrey again. Don't know how thrilled I am about that, but we'll line up and see what happens.
Building on what you just said, moving on from each game, I guess looking back at these games as a whole, what have been some of those consistent keys maybe that you noticed that have really pushed your success here?
The main one is effort. These guys have given great effort, and they haven't panicked. And when things haven't gone right, they haven't pouted. And the teams who panic and pout don't advance in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And you don't get too excited when things go great. Don't get too low when they go bad. And it sounds like it's very easy to do, but teams who aren't used to it, or you get up on them maybe 10 points, they start to figure out, man, what are we going to do Monday? There's no practice Monday, and that starts to weigh on them during the game. It does, and our kids think about it too, even though you try to fight it. And so once we get that momentum, and once we got that long drive against Davidson, we didn't want to give up that momentum. But Davidson, veteran playoff team, they did what they had to do. They onside kicked, they got down inside our red zone, and fortunately we got the intercept and held on and won the game.
You mentioned Ulrey. I mean, obviously they've been in this spot a few times over the years, and you got a chance to beat them last year. What do you see as being some of the keys for this game coming up?
One thing we're going to have to deal with is their reach and their size. I mean, they are enormous. It's a game that we've been in some of these type of games similar. I know it sounds strange, but it'd be nice just to stay within one score till halftime, and then see what happens, and then maybe stay within one score by the end of the third quarter. If Ulrey gets up a score and a half to 2 scores, you've got some tough sledding, because defensively they're so fast, and once they know what you have to do to get back in the game, that makes you one-dimensional, and they feast on that. And you can see that with the teams that they played. They haven't really blown teams out until late in the third quarter. Once they got up 2 scores, and they knew the team had to throw the ball, they just laid their ears back and came, and their DBs are fast. So I just want to stay within one score. We're going to work this thing, and like I said, if they get up 2 scores on, it's going to be tough.
All right, Coach, we will let you get back to preparation.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that's Pickerington Central Coach Jay Sharrett. All right, and you can hear the team behind us. They are practicing in the field house this afternoon because of the conditions out here. You looking at this game, you saw them Friday night. What have you seen in some of your research about Ulrey, other than the fact they win a lot of lopsided games? They've only had one game decided, I think, by less than 20 points all year. 6 decided by more than 40 points. It's really a dominant run for them.
Well, I mean, they might have had their most impressive game this week too. I mean, you think about the way they beat Elder 42-0. I mean, Elder's good.
Oh, that's a good program. Yeah,
Elder's good. So, as far as this matchup, I mean, Pickerington Central, I really believe is starting to peak. Actually, I think this game against Davidson really was their best game that they've played probably in a while. I mean, they look really solid on defense. I mean, Davidson did have a running back, I think, go off maybe 150 yards, but they were able to kind of contain their big plays, and they weren't able to let Davidson wasn't able to get out and break a lot of long ones. And then offensively, Pickerington Central's offense is started to maybe hit its stride a little bit. Their offensive line, which is young and inexperienced compared to the last couple of years, it's gotten a little bit better as the season's been going on. And Demetri Crenshaw was able to get out, rush for almost 100 yards last week, and that's big for them because when you think about their playoff run last year, he was huge. In all the time, he had 6 touchdowns in the state championship game.
Yep.
Incredible performance, and he's capable of doing that. He just they haven't really been able to get him out and go on a lot of these huge several touchdown type of games like they did that game. So Jameer Jackson also had a very good game the other night. And also another thing is Jackson didn't play in that game against Ulrey last year, so that's a factor that could be real interesting here. Ulrey's going to have to deal with something there that they're maybe not used to. So.
And that was a 48-1-28 score. Central beat Coleraine last year. I'm guessing it was not at Pickwood because Jay Sharrett said before we went on camera that it was not.
Right.
That was Welcome Stadium. I'm not sure. But and to clarify what I said earlier, Coleraine played that game against St. X in week 2. It was 14-12. Since then, 3 games decided by 20 to 29 points, 2 by 30 to 39. The other 6 all by 40 or more points. So we will see how that goes.
They've got a dangerous quarterback and a dangerous running back, kind of like Pickerington Central.
Yeah.
Kind of like a lot of the teams that are still playing. I mean, they have a multi-threat quarterback, Deontay Smith-Moore, and then they've got a running back who's really good. I don't know if it's Yvonne or Ivan Pace Jr. He's rushed for over 1,200 yards this year, and they run the ball, they run the veer. It's a really technical type of offense that everybody always says it's about assignment football. So Pickerington Central's defensive guys are just going to have to be very what's the word I'm looking for, deliberate, or they're just going to have to be very focused on what they're doing out there to be able to contain that. So
2 Division I state semifinals. The other one also features an area team, that being Olentangy Liberty. Their playoff run continues after they beat Kaufman the other night 21-7. They are at 9-4. They're going to take on 9-3 St. Ed's from Lakewood up at Ireland Field in Mansfield. So kind of a familiar home for a lot of Central Ohio teams here.
You just saw them last week.
Twice now in a row.
Yeah. I mean, what they've got 4 losses, but it kind of feels like there's something maybe really special going on out there.
Well, just the other night, I mean, they're not fancy. They don't get flustered. They do what they do very well. I know you know that from covering them all year. But Mitchell Oakley with 3 touchdowns the other night. Their defense again came up huge. I mean, they came up big in that win over Reynoldsburg 2 weeks ago in the semifinal up at DeSales. I covered that game as well. Being outgained but shutting down Reynoldsburg is as paradoxical as that might sound. But the other night, they dominated even more. Kaufman they were unable to be very effective. They only broke the shutout in the final minutes of the game. But yeah, you're right that Liberty really is finding that right mix at the right time when they need to be, and it's another thing. I mean, just being familiar with this time of the year. I know Steve Hale and we talked about it the other day, and it's the same case for everybody. If you're really familiar with this, it can pay dividends.
Yeah, and Lakewood St. Ed, I mean, they've been a consistently very good program the last few years, but a lot of these kids that are in this game for them haven't been in the state semifinal atmosphere. I think it's been about 3 years since they've been here.
2015 was the last time they were here. Yeah.
But obviously, there's a lot of great teams in that area. Mentor, Lakewood St. Edward, St. Ignatius, lots of blue bloods up there, so to speak. And St. Ed will, undoubtedly, they'll come into this very, very ready. Just from doing a little bit of research, I mean, they had drives of 18 and 13 plays in that game against that they beat Mentor the other night.
Sounds like one of the teams you saw the other night, right?
Yeah, kind of. Well, Pickerington Central went on a 20-play, 95-yard drive.
Yep.
So, yeah, ought to be a real great challenge. That'll be up at Arlen Field, I believe, on Friday. And really nice press box. Good people up there. Good pizza. It's really good.
So I think we know where you're going.
Well,
Friday.
We'll see.
Okay, they treat you well up there. I've heard their coffee supply more than a few times when it's always cold. St. Ed's has won 9 of 10 since they started 0-2. A couple players to watch out for with them. Kintel Kent, wide receiver. We were able to say this name this week. He is committed to Michigan. And Jordan Castleberry is going to West Virginia. He is a running back. He's going to walk on there from just what my research showed me over the weekend. Division III, this game is going to be out east at New Philadelphia. Eastmore, which beat Thornville Sheridan the other night. They take on Chagrin Falls Kenston. I believe both of those teams are 12-1. Nice run continues for the Warriors. We talked to Coach Miranda a couple weeks ago, and boy, they've come out and posted 2 really impressive victories the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we talk about Savon Edwards a lot and how good he is, and at the end of in the third quarter of their game the other night, banged up his shoulder again. So I don't know exactly what the status of him is. But the good thing about it is that they've got so many options. They've got so many great athletes, whether it's Micah Coleman or Killen Birchmore or whoever it is that they decide to run the ball. I don't think that the offense is really going to be a big issue in this. And their defense has been very steady. You look at some of the performances they put up. I think they've given up 14 points in every playoff game. So
yeah, I guess, and they trailed Sheridan at halftime the other night, 14-6.
They posted a bunch of shutouts in regular season.
Yes, they did, and not a lot of close games like we talked about a few weeks ago. And sometimes that's the thing that made me wonder. It's like, okay, they've played well, but they didn't. The City South, you have some teams up here, and then you have some teams down here. That has not mattered in the postseason. Sure. They've shown that they belong. For sure. So congratulations to the Warriors. Good to see the City League represented at this stage.
Yeah.
A couple other Central Ohio teams, a little bit beyond our coverage area, but still in what everybody would consider Central Ohio down in Division IV. Licking Valley has advanced to they have advanced to a state semifinal, if I can remember this, and Saturday night, they will be playing Jarrod. That's a couple 12-1. Jarrod is 12-1, Licking Valley is 10-3. That game is going to be out at Dover.
Right. One thing that's a pretty neat story. I mean, you think about Randy Boffman. He's in his 37th season as a coach at Licking Valley. He's been to a couple of state championship games and lost them both. Yeah. So, you got to be thinking, how many more opportunities am I going to have? I mean, this is a great chance for them.
Yeah.
If they can take advantage of it. Connor McLaughlin is an excellent running back for them, and of course they're playing a team that's 12-1. I mean, Jarrod hasn't really been. I mean, they haven't really been in this situation that many times. So, whereas Valley looked awful impressive against St. Clairsville. I mean, I think
that was one night that I expected them to lose necessarily, but that was the way that how good they looked. Really was pretty surprising.
Very impressive.
Yeah. Division 5, Johnstown and Wheelersburg in a battle of 12-1 team. That one's going to be down south. It's going to be at Jackson. Speaking of dismantlings, Johnstown did that to Byesville Meadowbrook the other night, 45-14. They rushed for 314 yards. They only gave up 226 total yards. Bryce Barash, I believe his name is, 158 yards to lead a pretty good running attack for them, and the Johnnies continue their season.
Johnstown hasn't really gotten to this level very many times, but they kept running into Steubenville over the years and some really great Division 4 teams. Now they're in Division 5. They're playing Wheelersburg. This is actually a rematch of last year's regional final that they lost 34-7. Now, I would say that I think Johnstown's better. They have a lot of seniors. They have a lot of veterans that have been through this before. So, and Wheelersburg they're on a great run. I mean, they lost one game in the last, they've won like 28 out of 29 or something. I don't know exactly, but they've won an awful lot of games, and their only loss was to Hartley. Yeah. In that stretch earlier this year.
I'm going to say it was 36 in a row going into that one.
Maybe.
And I can't remember offhand if that encompassed both the regular season and the postseason. I want to say that it did.
So
and then, of course, Hartley
crashed them. Yeah.
And they've bounced back and won. A couple other teams, of course, whose season came to an end Friday include Dublin-Kaufman, Hilliard-Davidson. London out to our west lost to Cincinnati, Wyoming. Those teams, again, coming up just short of a regional championship. Any thoughts on what those teams were able to accomplish?
It's great to see Davidson. For Davidson and Kaufman, it's got to be great to just get back to this level. And I think later on, they're going to feel a little bit better about this season because Kaufman hasn't been to a regional final since 2009. And Davidson had kind of had a couple of what they would consider down seasons. And here they are, they're back in the regional final. And they had the ball. They had a chance to tie it just in the last couple of minutes against Pickerington Central. So they certainly have nothing to feel bad about. And, of course, London ran into a great team the other night, and they're a very good team. And that's a great story what they've done out there the last couple of years.
Absolutely, yeah. London lost to Cincinnati.
And then we got 5 teams playing this weekend. I mean, I think there's a pretty good chance.
Yeah, encompassing the entire region. Yeah.
Pretty good chance Central Ohio is going to have at least one team make it to the championship, maybe a couple.
You'd think so. Maybe we'll have 2 facing off in one of these divisions.
Wouldn't that be something?
That would be something. We've been wanting to see it for a while, and who knows if it actually will. One more Facebook Live to go. That will be on Wednesday night, November the 28th. We will be at our Fall Sports Banquet, the This Week Fall Sports Awards at Villa Milano. That will begin at 7 o'clock. We'll be on sometime during the 6 o'clock hour. We will give you some more details on that when we get closer to that. Everyone, have a happy Thanksgiving. That includes Andy Resnick behind the phone. You never see him. Jarrod, Ulrey, you get enough of us. So, hey, happy Thanksgiving,
Thank
sir.
you.
Enjoy it.
You too.
Same to all of you. So long, everybody.